Speech Night is a one-of-a-kind, biannual campus tradition established in 1971, making it the longest running event of its kind in the country.
You get a means of connection between people or places in particular.
Public speaking is power.
You say things in different ways, it means things, and it means different things to different people.
But for us to be able to alleviate someone's misfortune, we have to first be able to listen to their problem.
Acquiring the skill of speaking before a group of people may be one of the most important.
Oh, there's a word to describe that feeling.
According to the Walt Disney Company, they currently operate from infinity to beyond.
There just comes a time when you have to stand up for your rights, and you have to stand up for what you believe, and you have to stand up for what's right.
And at the time, I just kept thinking, I was like, you got up here and you did what no one else could do. You got up here, you did what so many people were afraid to do. I was like, stop listening because you're already a winner.
First, would you send someone to prison to make yourself feel better? I probably would say no.
It was quite an event. I was not prepared to win, did not expect to win. It was a surprise and a good one. What you need to do is find a way to channel that nervousness into what you're doing, into your speaking, into your presentation. And I tried to remember that, and I guess it worked that night.
I mean, I was one of maybe 7 people who were, honored to give a speech at this amazing event in front of so many people, but that's a lot of responsibility and it's a lot of stress.
To bring this all to them, to make them feel like they're really a part of it. Thinking, what are you going to say to them?
Hello, everyone. Before we get started tonight, just a reminder to silence your phones and laptops if you can. We just want to be respectful of all the speakers tonight. So, hello, my name is Miranda Prouse, and I am the Undergraduate Director of Administrative Operations at the IUPUI Speakers Lab, and welcome to the IUPUI Communication Studies Speech Competition. Before we get started, I want to go ahead and take a moment to introduce your MC for tonight, Katya Halstead. Katya is the 100th speech contest winner with her speech entitled Healthy Personal Policy with her professor, Moffett Craig. In addition to being the 100th speech contest winner, Katya is one of the fabulous mentors at the Speakers Lab and has designed all of the awards and graphics for this event. So let's give her a round of applause and welcome your MC tonight, Katya Halstead.
Hello. Like Miranda said, I'm Katya Halstead, and I will be your MC for tonight's event. I am honored to have been chosen as the winner of the 100th speech competition. Even though I never gave a speech live in person, I somehow convinced them to let me MC tonight. So, bear with me. I gave a speech titled Healthy Personal Policy, and it was how to keep your toothbrush sanitary amidst all the bacteria in your bathroom. Sounds pretty nasty, I know, and believe me, I could give a whole speech on it, but I'll spare you the details. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming the Chair of the Department of Communication Studies, Dr. Christine Karnick.
Good evening, everyone. Look at this. So many people. It's wonderful. So nice to see you all here. I want to take this opportunity to welcome all of you, R110 scholars, friends, parents, colleagues, and guests, to what is now the 103rd semi-annual Department of Communication Studies Speech Night. In this, our amazing new permanent venue, hopefully it's permanent venue, we think it is, the Madam Walker Theater. This is truly a momentous occasion. The Department of Communication Studies has held this event continually, as you kind of alluded to in the video as well. We've run it every fall and every spring semester since 1971. It is the longest continually running event on this campus. Over those years, we have heard wonderful and thoughtful speeches on a wide variety of topics at the forefront of social discourse. Tonight promises to be more of the same, an evening of great oratory in an amazing and historic theater. Ever since I learned that this building was going to align with IUPUI, I've been hoping that Speech Night would find its way here. Why, you may ask? I want to tell you a little bit about where we are, about this place, this theater, which is part of the Madam C.J. Walker Building and Legacy Center. It was built in 1927, completed some 8 years after Madam C.J. Walker's death. Madam Walker was an amazing, amazing woman. She was the first female self-made millionaire in America. She achieved this by creating an African-American hair care and beauty products empire. If you want to learn more about this fascinating woman, I urge y'all to do so. It's a fascinating story. There are a number of books about her, as well as, most recently, a 2020 Netflix film called Self-Made, starring Octavia Spencer and Tiffany Haddish. And this theater, so many great talents, especially jazz musicians such as J.J. Johnson, Wes Montgomery, Freddie Hubbard, appeared here over the years. This theater is considered one of the few remaining African Art Deco buildings in the country, and it was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1980. And so I am so very happy that we now have this as a home for this event. So, well, to move on, onto the event itself, right? Author and aviator Anne Morrow Lindbergh, who was Charles Lindbergh's wife also. She once wrote, "Good communication is as stimulating as black coffee and just as hard to sleep after." I hope and expect that at the end of this competition, you'll be able to experience that sentiment. You're about to hear 7 of the best speeches out of 1,900 possibilities. That's how many students are in this course this semester. 7 of the best speeches created this fall. And to add to this excitement, you get to participate in the evaluation process. A great deal rides on the decisions that you all will make as you listen to these speakers. The winner of tonight's competition takes home not only a beautiful trophy, bragging rights, a nice resume line, but also a $1,500 scholarship. And second place, third place, descending $1,000 and $500 and so on. So listen carefully and choose wisely. Before we get started, I want to take a minute to also thank the people who have made this night possible. First, your instructors. And I'm going to ask, so I want us to all kind of hold our applause, because I know you want to applaud. Hold your applause until the end of this group of people, and then I'd like to hear a big applause. First, your instructors. Thank you to all of our wonderful R110 instructors. Your efforts are truly and genuinely appreciated. Next, thank you to the R110 leadership team who keep R110 running smoothly each year by coordinating roughly 140 sections and 4,000 students, and who have made this evening possible, and of these, most importantly, our course director, Steve Overby. Thank you to our undergraduate event director who you met earlier, Miranda Prouse, our undergraduate event assistants, Jamie West and Lorelei Kaplinger, our wonderful Speakers Lab mentors, our event MC and the winner of the 100th, Katja Halstead. You met her too. Thank you also, finally, to our video production director, John Greenhoe. So if we could give a round of applause to all of these people who helped make all this possible. And finally, I want to thank and commend you, scholars, R110 students, for making a valuable investment in your future by completing this course. Although I know you had to do it, but I'm sure we all wanted to anyway. Who wouldn't? Engaging in smart, clear, informed oral communication is a gift that you will use throughout your lives. The skills you've acquired will help you professionally and personally, regardless of your major. However, for those of you who have not yet committed to a major, may I suggest communication studies? I'm a little biased. A communication studies degree can provide you with the knowledge and set of skills that are critical to organizations and transferable between organizations and even careers. Don't believe me? Look at sought-after majors and skills listed on Indeed, ZipRecruiter, and Career Builder. I guarantee you'll be surprised at how often you'll see communication and communication studies. Another possibility you may want to consider is the new BA in Applied Theater, Film, and Television. If you have an interest in either theater, film and television studies, or even media production, this degree will give you a great start in these fields. On the other hand, even if you've already chosen another major, and congratulations that you did, you may want to consider one of our communication minors. We offer 6, including organizational and corporate communication, media arts and production, health communication, persuasion, and theater. Why? If you look up soft skills that employers look for in potential employees on Indeed, here's what you'll see. At the top of the list, communication skills. Quote, good communication involves listening. We teach a course in listening. And observing as well as talking. Candidates must not only be articulate, they must also be able to see beyond the spoken word and notice questionable behaviors and patterns. We teach nonverbal communication too, by the way. Employees with expert communication abilities can mitigate a problem before it becomes a crisis. We teach communication and conflict too. Fostering collaborative solutions when they're needed most, end quote. And Monster.com finally echoes this statement, adding, quote, if you can clearly express the who, what, when, where, why, and how of a project, you'll be a hot ticket. And their advice on how to gain that skill, take public speaking. Congratulations to you. You've already done just that. So don't throw away what you've learned this semester. Keep that material close by. Remember what a good introduction looks like, what it should accomplish. Remember how an oral argument should be structured, how to transition between points, and how to summarize for the listener so that they know what to take away from your words. You've been provided a great framework through which to communicate your ideas when you leave here and leave the university. Use it. You'll be glad you did. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Karnick. Now, before we bring our first speaker to the stage, I want to take a few moments to review the judging and voting process with each of you. You all should have received a paper tonight that includes the event agenda, the name of the contestants, and a section with the QR code for both the program and voting links. If you did not receive this paper, you can view it digitally on www.thespeakerslab.info. On the back of the event agenda, there is a place for you to score each contestant on a variety of categories, including the proper Monroe format, citations, and speech delivery. We ask that you score fairly and consistently, and make sure that you are judging based on the same criteria for each contestant. After all 7 contestants have given their speech, you will vote by ranking the contestants from 1st to 7th place. When it is time to vote, you will use your phone camera and scan the QR code. In that Google form, you will rank the contestants, 1 being the best. If you do not remember the order of the speakers, you can review the event agenda and see the contest order there. Also, if anyone who has received a clipboard for tonight, after you cast your vote, please remember to pass it to the end of your aisle and someone will be around to collect them. Once the scores are calculated and the time penalties are put into place, we will announce the 3rd place, 2nd place, and 100th speech competition winner. Now, let's meet the 103rd speech competition contestants.
My name is Preston Tindall. I go by he, him pronouns. My instructor is Scott Black, and my speech is Male Suicide, the Silent Epidemic. I'm a freshman here at IUPUI studying mechanical engineering. My hobbies and extracurriculars include playing guitar, working on cars, and designing things. And one of my fun facts is that I'm actually a live musician in my off time.
My name is Aliyah Boone. My pronouns are she, her. My instructor's name is Professor Amanda Bryant. I'm a freshman. My major is pre-nursing. I'm in University College right now. And my hobbies and extracurriculars are I go to the gym a lot. Yeah. And a fun fact about me is that I was the first Black president consecutive in my high school, class president.
Hi, I'm Karlie Nichols. My pronouns are she, her, and my instructor for COM R110 is Madeline Wilson. My speech title is Abolishing Standardized Testing. I'm a freshman majoring in psychology, and outside of class you'll find me volunteering, getting involved in Jagathon, and bullet journaling. A fun fact about me is that I'm a registered behavioral technician.
Hello, my name is Amori Curiel. I'm a sophomore here at IUPUI, majoring in biology and minoring in religious studies. My speech is called Pause for Pause, and my professor's name is Professor Agorde. In my free time, I like to watch my sisters play basketball and volleyball, and a fun fact about me is that I owned a pet hermit crab named Bubbles.
My name is Chanakarn Mongkonpruthangkoon, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. My instructor is Dr. Kim White Mills, and the title of my speech is Indy Wants Universal Curbside Recycling. I am currently a freshman majoring in chemistry, and my hobbies and extracurriculars are I like to play volleyball, and I'm also a sustainability intern for University Tower. And a fun fact is I am an international student from Bangkok, Thailand.
Hello, my name is Ainsley Foster. My pronouns are she, her. My instructor's name is Persis Aya. The title of my speech is A Step in the Right Direction, IUPUI's Role in Civic Education. I'm a freshman, and my two majors are finance and legal studies. Some of my hobbies are I'm on the mock trial team here at IUPUI, and a fun fact about me is that I play the cello.
Hi, my name is Tayna Ma. My pronouns are she, her. My instructor is Tackett, and the title of my speech is Implementation of Native Language Tests. I am a sophomore, and my major is psychology. Some of the things that I like to do are painting, playing the piano, and reading. And a fun fact about me is that I have a cat named Cleo.
Our first speaker of the night is Preston Tindall. He is a freshman majoring in mechanical engineering. His professor is Scott Black, and his speech is entitled Male Suicide, the Silent Epidemic. Let us all welcome Preston.
I wish that I could talk to you and beg you not to go. I wish I asked what you were going through, but now I'll never know. I wish I had some warning of what you do that night, and then you'd given me a chance to save you, to help you make things right. Imagine with me, you're a 16-year-old boy. It's your sophomore year of high school. You look around and some people are having the time of their lives, but not you. No, you're not happy, and you haven't been for quite some time. You're struggling hard. You want to go to someone for help, but no one cares. You think to yourself, no one cares and no one will miss me. No one cares. I'm just a waste. You search for a way out, a way to make it all stop. If only they had seen the signs. If only they had seen the signs, but they did see the signs. They just didn't care. Male suicide is a silent epidemic that has been going on for far too long and affects each and every one of us. I've personally struggled with suicidal thoughts and the stigma that surrounds men's mental health, and have lost loved ones because of it. But hey, we're men. We deal with these things ourselves. Men don't cry. I want to persuade you that male suicide is a terrible problem. And I will do this by showing you the problem, outlining a plan to fix this problem, showing you the benefits of my plan, and asking you to take your step in helping to solve this issue. Let me throw some facts at you. Dr. Knock from the Harvard Research Lab found that men commit suicide at a 3 to 7.5 times higher rate than women, and 80% are on their first attempt. Clinical psychologist Dr. Patrick Rao from Cornell University found that 45% of men that committed suicide had contact with their primary physician in the year prior regarding their mental health. Yet, only 20% of those men were referred to mental health specialists. Dr. Anna Pearson did a follow-up on that study and found that only 16% of those physicians thought they could have done anything differently. You see, there's an idea and a stigma that floats around that men don't seek help or that it's harder to recognize when they need it. Those facts demonstrate that this just isn't true. We're looking for black and white when some things fall in between. A study published by the American Journal for Psychiatry said that we need to weigh factors such as parental separation, drug use, and family history of suicide more heavily, as those can almost triple the likelihood of a man committing suicide. There's a lot of issues with the signs. I was reading a paper published by Dr. Sarah McKenzie from the University of Otago in New Zealand, and she said that we're using the same criteria regardless of race, regardless of gender, regardless of history. And while this not only doesn't help those who need it, it actually harms them. Because if you reach out and on paper your symptoms don't line up, you'll feel invalidated, and you're less likely to continue seeking treatment. If those facts weren't enough for you to see the dire need to act, I've got a couple more. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for people our age, 15 to 24. And it's the 10th leading cause of death overall. Every 26.6 seconds, there's another attempt made, which means that by the end of this speech, there will be 16 attempts made. Those facts came from the American Association of Suicidology, a nonprofit that studies suicide across the states and seeks to end it. I wish you could have soldiered on and worked through the pain. If you had, I promise you, you would have been happy one day. Our first step on the long road is to recognize. I was reading a paper published in the National Library of Medicine, and it said that men don't tend to notice changes when they get into deep depressive episodes as much as others around them can see. So if we can recognize, we can move on to the second step, which is reaching out. I was doing a lot of research into how to reach out to people and how I personally would want to be reached out to, and I agree with published psychologist Dr. Sofia Strzelecki when she said that men respond positively to receiving support from respected and trusted individuals. And as for the how to reach out, well, it doesn't matter how, because any attempt is better than no attempt with an issue as severe as this. What else can we do? A simple Google search to the website medicalnewstoday.com, which is a peer-reviewed site full of psychologists and doctors alike, and you can find things such as accompanying men to treatment, listening to their concerns without minimizing, and embracing their role in your family or life. Nobody wants to feel like they aren't wanted or needed. And if you feel like I've mentioned in this PowerPoint, there are resources available to you through CAPS on Campus and the new National Suicide Hotline number 988. I wish the last time I saw you, I didn't rush away. I wish I hugged you harder and told you I loved you that day. If we can recognize and reach out, we can obviously reduce suicide, but there's more than we can do than that. We can break the stigma surrounding men's mental health. We can get those who need it into treatment. We can make it to where people aren't fighting in this battle alone, because when you know you aren't alone, you're less likely to give up. We shouldn't have to bury our dads, our brothers, our cousins, our uncles, anyone. I shouldn't have to miss class to go to a classmate's funeral, and the grief counselors never need to come. And if we can recognize, reach out, and support, these things never need to happen. So here's what I ask of you all. When we leave here tonight, get out your phones, I know we all have one, and call that dad, brother, cousin, uncle, just one guy who you know might need it, and let them know that you're here for them and that you support them. To show you how easy this is, I'm going to call my dad right now and let him know. Assuming he picks up. Hey Dad, I'm here at Speech Night. I just wanted to call you, let you know that I love you and that I care about you.
Awesome, dude. Good luck with it. I love you and I'm proud of you, bud.
Thank you. Something just as simple as that can make a huge impact in this problem. I hope that I've convinced you that male suicide is a terrible problem. And I did this by showing you the problem, showing you a plan to fix it, showing you the benefits of my plan, and imploring you to do your part in it. That 16-year-old boy from the story was my best friend, and Josh will never be a statistic to me. He was a brother, he was a cousin, he was my friend. He was a student. He had the world ahead of him. We will change and show the men in our lives that we care. I wish that I could bring you back to see you one last time, to hold you close, to hear your voice, and then the world would be fine. But these things can never happen. The nightmares are all about you. There's not one thing that I can change, because these dreams will never come true. Thank you all.
Speaker 2 tonight is Aliyah Boone. She is a freshman in pre-nursing. Her professor is Amanda Bryant, and her speech is titled War on Drugs. Let's all welcome Aliyah.
First, I would like to start off with a story, my story. Hi, my name is Vanessa. I've been addicted to heroin for about 5 years now. And throughout those 5 years, I've lost everything. I've lost my house. I've lost my children. I've lost all trust that my parents instilled in me. I'm now homeless. And throughout my heroin addiction, I contracted HIV using dirty needles. Now, I want you to understand that there's a couple of reasons why my life took a turn. There's 3 factors that I want to point out. The emotional. There was a void in my heart that I just needed to fill. I was going through a divorce. I felt like there was no way out. There's the physical. I loved the high. I felt that heroin gave me a sense of just desire. I could do anything. Psychological. I had negative feelings towards the entire world. I felt like my whole world was crashing around me. So that's what I chose to do. Now, on my casual walks downtown to see if I could find anything, heroin was my drug of choice, but personally I would have gone for anything. I see this center. It says needle pickup and drop off. Well, I'm a heroin user. I need needles. I decided to go in. That's when my life changed forever. That community center not only changed my life, it helped me become clean. I walked in there for clean needles and left with a new sense of self and life. In that center, I got wound care. Throughout my drug addiction, I picked at my skin, tore holes into my skin. I had wounds everywhere. I got treatment for that. I got mental health treatment, rehab, and now I'm 2 years clean. I could see my children. I got an apartment. I got a job. I'm somebody again. Now, I want you to look at this number. Approximately 155,000 people from Indiana use illegal drugs. This is a big number. This is a problem, and this is a war that we need to fight together. Now, dirty needles. There's a couple of things that you can contract with using dirty needles. I myself contracted HIV, but there's a couple other. AIDS, hepatitis B, and hepatitis C upon many. Now I want you to look. The Netherlands was a country that tried this needle pickup and needle drop-off center. You can see this chart here. Russia has 10.2. This is per 100,000 people, by the way. Lithuania 6.3, Norway 5.7, and all the way down there, that little yellow dot, if you can even see it, is the Netherlands. So clearly, this center has helped people everywhere across Europe. Now, I want to look in our own backyard, Marion County. You can see these charts here: fentanyl detection, heroin, and prescription opioid drug detection. Those dark red spots is downtown. Now I want you to look at this chart. Fentanyl is at the rise right now. We have heroin, that's always been pretty high, and prescription opioids have been high as well, but now we're on the slight trend downwards. I want to create a family here. Within this community center, my main focus is the needle pickup and needle drop-off, but I not only want to have that, I want to have many things available for many people, and yes, I want it to be free. Why? Because many drug users are low income, they're struggling, and they need help. Now, what do I want to provide? Wound care. Clearly, people who are on drugs pick at their skin, they have wounds. If you're homeless, you can get scuffed up. Wound care is essential. We have mental health care. I not only want this mental health care for the drug user, but for the family as well. Because I believe that the family is the main factor in what stops drug users overall. I want mental health care to be available and necessary. Now I want Narcan distribution because Narcan can be life or death. I want this to be for the drug user and given to the family members as well. Narcan, one shot up the nose, can really save somebody's life. I also want rehab, of course, because these drug users need to utilize these tools that we have, and rehab will help them start over. Needle distribution, and my main hook, and the reason why I'm talking today, I want them to clean the dirty needles that are littering the streets of downtown. If you take one walk, I bet you can find a dirty needle on the floor. I know I have. And I want these needles to be dropped off, and the drug users can pick up those needles. Why? Why would we give drug users clean needles? To stop the spread of STDs, to stop the harmful things that are carried within these needles, and to give the drug users a hook to kind of walk in there and see what this community center is about and eventually save their life. I want to create a community here. I want to instill something in all of you today. I'm not Vanessa, and that wasn't my story. But there are many Vanessas sitting here today. It could be your mom, it could be your dad, it could be your cousin, it could be your best friend. Drugs have reached everybody in this room one way or another. It could be you yourself that needs this help. I think that everyone here doesn't understand that we can start today. We can start this initiative today. Everyone pull out your phones, please, and take a picture of this link because it links to a petition that I want to start. I want to start a community center here downtown, a walkable distance for everybody here. I want it to be a center where drug users can find help that they so desperately need. Drug users, this is an illness, and this is a war. I want everyone to understand that we're not going to berate these drug users. We're going to treat them with a sense of respect and dignity that they so rightfully deserve. Now, if you need this link, you can contact me after this speech, but I hope that we can start today, not only for a better today, but for a better tomorrow. Thank you.
Our third speaker is Karlie Nichols. She's a freshman majoring in psychology. Her professor is Madeline Wilson, and her speech title is Abolish Standardized Testing. Let's all welcome Karlie.
Today you will be taking the iStep Plus Mathematics exam. In front of you, you should have a copy of the iStep Plus Mathematics reference sheet and the test book. And you're probably not listening anymore. For many of us in this room, this is a reality of every day of elementary school during the spring standardized testing window. We learn to associate this introduction and the test itself with anxiety, fear, immense pressure, and failure for a lot of us. In 2001, the No Child Left Behind Act was passed, requiring all students in grades 3 through 8 to take standardized testing once a year. But now, more than ever, these tests are failing us. They're not accomplishing their original goal of assessing growth and measuring future success. So, why do we still have them? These tests are failing us for three main reasons. Firstly, they're perpetuating socioeconomic disparities. Secondly, they're distracting from the main focus of schools, which is learning. And thirdly, they're not accomplishing what they were set out to accomplish. Let's start with socioeconomic disparities. A group of Harvard Graduate School of Education scholars partnered with a researcher from Stanford to create a digital tool that shows the connection between socioeconomic status and test scores along with projected learning rates. As you can see, they found that as socioeconomic status decreases, so does the learning rate and growth. This is simply unfair to those of lower socioeconomic statuses, as oftentimes they're not less capable. It's simply a barrier to resources to help them get that growth, to help them reach their goals academically that they truly want to reach but feel that they can't. Things like retakes of SATs and ACTs, test books, tutors, study materials, they all have a cost to them. And lower socioeconomic backgrounds don't have access to pay those. Further, there's a new focus in schools. The Public School Review, an organization that analyzes learning in schools across the US, noted that testing is now the new priority, not learning. By adhering to policies set forth by government and district standards, teachers are having to adhere to a phenomenon called teaching to the test, where they're no longer focusing on key skills that will help students in the long run, instead teaching to a set standard that is tested year after year. They're shifting their focus to tested areas rather than experiential learning that, according to Dr. Sternberg from Cornell University, develops key skills such as creative, wisdom-based, and practical skills. Finally, they're not an accurate measure. Their environmental barriers surrounding standardized testing, including the bleak environment, harbor stress and anxiety for students. And they fear failure because of this. They fear that they won't get to go on to the next grade because they'll get held back if they don't reach that perfect score, or they won't get into their college that they so badly want to get into because they don't get that perfect score. Dr. Joanne Rodriguez noted that the bleak structured environments of testing centers and classrooms during the standardized testing window inhibit performance, increasing anxiety and inhibiting performance. Why are we testing students in an environment that is destined to make them do worse? Additionally, Dr. Sternberg of Cornell University's Human Development Department noted that they ignore valuable skills as they only assess rote memory and academic skills. They don't assess creative, wisdom-based, practical skills such as interpersonal relationship building and time management that are truly needed for the future careers of these students. So, what are some alternatives? Anya Comentes of NPR noted two key alternatives: stealth assessments and portfolio assessments. The first of which, stealth assessments, occur in the everyday, realistic environment, noting students' capabilities on group projects and assignments, etc. This eliminates the structured, bleak environment of a testing center and shows a student's true growth over time, rather than in a moment where anxiety is high. Similarly, portfolio assessments teach students to compile their work that they are proud of into a portfolio where they can show it to others and they can send it to their colleges or their scholarships that they're applying for, and truly show how they're doing over time and what they're proud of, what their interests are, while still demonstrating their academic and creative, wisdom-based practical skills. And also, we have course grades, so why not use them? In each course you take, you're getting grades on assignments, tests, quizzes, projects, anything you do. So let's apply these and take course grades for what they are. They're showing your development throughout the class, so let's look at it. If a student is particularly struggling in a certain area, that's okay. Teachers can note that their level of initiative, whether or not they tried to get help from the professor or the teacher, and other things like that, that show the student's capability. So all of these alternatives lead to 5 primary benefits. They first assess all skills. They are more insightful because of the assessment of all skills, as they show not what financial barriers the student has, but how the student worked around those financial barriers. It's a better representation of student ability, as it's looking at not just academic, but also those creative, wisdom-based practical skills that will help students in the long run. Additionally, we're going to be saving $1.7 billion every year. Yeah, we're spending $1.7 billion on standardized testing. So, what can you do? You can do one or all 3 things: speak up, support, and vote. By speaking up, you are contacting your local representative or government official and letting them know what you believe. Letting them know the importance of truly abolishing standardized testing and putting the students first. Additionally, if you know someone who is still being required to take these tests, don't continually bring up the negative. Support them and let them know that it's just temporary, they'll get through it, and they'll be just fine. Also, you can vote. By voting, you're directly electing people who are in your corner into the government. So, today, you saw the benefits of my alternative plans and why standardized testings are harmful. So hopefully you will take the steps to support that. Thank you.
Speaker for tonight is Amori Curiel with Professor Agorde. She is a sophomore majoring in biology on pre-med track. For her speech entitled Pause for Pause, please join me in welcoming Amori.
Americans use their phones 96 times per day. This indicates that we pause our day-to-day activities to use our phones roughly once every 9 minutes. I'm sure some of you are checking them between speeches, and rightly so. Our phones contain very important information. But what if next time we stop to use our phones, we paused for pause? Now, I'm not referring to just any animal pause. Specifically, I'm referring to jaguar pause. As jaguars at IUPUI, you may or may not have heard of Pause Pantry. Pause Pantry is an on-campus resource available for students who are experiencing food insecurity. Pause Pantry is funded by community support and donations, trying to ensure that students are adequately and nutritiously fed during their time in school. The key word here, though, is trying, because despite their efforts, Pause Pantry faces two problems: under-promotion and stigmatization. Although there is a significant amount of students at IUPUI who are experiencing food insecurity, many of them either one, don't know about the resources available to them, or two, they have an issue with the cultural and social stigma that surrounds the idea of accepting free food and goods. This problem is not only prevalent to IUPUI, however, but can be seen on multiple college campuses across the United States. In 2021, Trellix Research Company conducted a study titled Hungry Minds, where they surveyed over 90 college campuses and universities in regards to food insecurity. The key findings from this research give us statistical information that showcase the extent of food insecurity among college students. For example, out of 49,946 students with access to an on-campus food distribution center, only 38% were aware of this resource. This indicates that 62% of the students were unaware. Out of these students, 42% were experiencing food insecurity. This is almost half of the students who participated in the study, and yet a third of them chose not to partake or visit any of the resources offered to them. This study is very broad, compiled of data from multiple college campuses, but it gives us a basic understanding of food insecurity that we can implement here at IUPUI. A basic needs assessment was conducted and published at IUPUI in 2019, just a few years ago. This assessment focused on food insecurity, as well as the barriers that prevented students from accessing the resources available to them. Collectively, 43.3% of the students who participated in this assessment were deemed as food insecure. Despite this, 87.6% were not reaching out or visiting any food pantries available to them. Why, you might ask? Well, students had two top responses as to why they were not visiting the resources available to them. Number one was, I don't know where they are. And number two, I feel embarrassed about my situation. College students already have tuition, textbooks, and other school materials to worry about. Especially when we're stereotyped for eating ramen in our dorms, it's clear that food, which will properly fuel our mind and bodies, is not at the top of our priority list. But the truth is, it should be, despite whatever resources it may take to achieve that. It's also commonly known that food increases focus and attention, allowing students to work more efficiently in the classroom. An article titled "School Food Shapes Learning" also indicates that proper meals will increase cognitive function. Now, the statistical data from both abroad and a specific perspective, as well as this impact of food on education, showcase the need to promote Pa's Pantry. Promotion can be done in many ways, such as spreading awareness, positive marketing messages, and even personal outreach. These are things that can easily be done on our phones. And one way of doing so is by communicating the hours, location, and services that Pa's Pantry provides on social media. This will help destigmatize the use of food pantries as college students. But what impact would this have? Well, not only would, the slide is not up, but that's okay. Not only would this decrease food insecurity among college students, but the academic achievement of each individual, as well as of the school as a whole, would increase. Students would also be less prone to illness and fatigue, making the IUPUI campus a healthier environment. Lastly, Oxford University conducted a study titled "Social Eating Connects Communities." They concluded that food serves as a connection point between peers. If students had secure daily eating habits, then their interactions both on and off campus would make IUPUI a more social and amicable community. This cannot be done without action, though. Action that begins with you and with me. Remember my opening statement. On average, Americans use their phones 96 times per day. What if during just one of these times, you took initiative to follow Pa's Pantry on Instagram or repost one of their photos, even liking a message they share on Twitter or reposting their information on your next Snapchat story? The truth is, we don't know who may be on the other side of your screen, hoping for a resource that will help fill their stomachs without feeling ashamed. By pausing for Pa's and promoting Pa's Pantry on social media, you are advocating for students in need. This student could be next to you or even a friend in one of your classes. Now, aside from online promotion, donations are a great way to help fill the shelves at Pa's Pantry. As assistant research professor at the Indiana University School of Medicine, Ms. Rebecca Rivera stated, "Food is the foundation of our health." Her own promotion on Facebook gives us locations where donation bins for Pa's Pantry can be found. These include, but are not limited to, Methodist Hospital, Eskenazi, and our own campus center at IUPUI. For more information regarding Pa's Pantry, the resources available to students, the location sites where you can donate, as well as social media platforms, you can scan this QR code, which will take you directly to the Pa's Pantry website. Through your promotion and action, you are promoting a way to destigmatize the use of food pantries as a college student, decreasing food insecurity, and making IUPUI a healthier, more academic institution. Thank you.
Our fifth speaker tonight is Tayna Mongkonpruthangkoon. She is a freshman majoring in chemistry. Her professor is Dr. Kim White-Mills. Her title of her speech is "Indy Wants Universal Curbside Recycling." Let's welcome Tayna.
All right. Okay. Doom, annihilation, panic, helplessness. Aren't these the vibes you get whenever you read about environmental issues? The Earth doesn't have to take a turn for the worst. In fact, you have the power to put it down the right path. I grew up in a household that recycled most of our waste, so I've always been intrigued by the idea of a sustainable society and have studied it in my free time. In my research, I found that Indianapolis is one of the most wasteful urban cities in the US. But that can be changed. So let's talk about the things that you can do to help make that change. The US has an average recycling rate of 32%. Can you guess what Indiana's is? GT Environmental revealed that Indiana recycles only 19% of its waste. That's far below the national average of 32% and the state's goal to recycle 50% of its waste. Indianapolis is also the most populous city in the state and the 14th largest city in the nation, but it only recycles 7% of its waste. In terms of recycling, Indianapolis is far behind other major cities in the US. To put the percentages into perspective, the Indy Star analyzed the recycling rates of the 50 most populous cities in the US and found that San Francisco recycled a whopping 80% of their waste. Seattle recycles 60%, and New York City recycles between 20 to 30%. The only two cities in the top 50 that recycled less than Indianapolis was Detroit and New Orleans. However, both of these cities are infamous for their financial struggles, which isn't the case with Indy. The Indy Star says that the cause of low recycling here can be attributed to the historical policies and the lack of political will to change them. In the 1980s, when the US faced an energy crisis and the landfills were filling up quickly, Indianapolis city officials partnered with a company to build incinerators that would burn the trash for energy. However, this is neither a clean nor sustainable way of dealing with waste. In fact, the facility violated its air quality permit just 5 months after it began its operations, and has repetitively done so since. The contract with the company has been consistently renewed, and this poses problems for implementing a recycling program because in the contract, the more trash the city sends to the incinerators, the less they had to pay for the steam energy that is generated to power downtown Indy. Aside from the old policies, politicians have little incentive to implement a proper recycling program. And that's because it's expensive to start the recycling program. According to the State of Curbside Recycling report published in 2020, in Indianapolis, the residential curbside subscription-based recycling will set a household back $99 a year, hence the low participation rate of only 10%. However, the cost of trash removal has remained relatively cheap at only $32 per year for the past 20 years. The cost of recycling should cost less than throwing trash away, but in order to implement a universal curbside recycling program, taxes and fees may need to be raised, and that is extremely unpopular for politicians to do. That leads me to the policies in Indianapolis that need to be changed. Indianapolis must provide a recycling program that is included with the city's trash collection. This change gives residents an incentive to recycle because it makes it cheaper and more convenient than before. Although there were reports in 2019 of plans to roll out a recycling program by 2025, there have been no follow-up reports since then, making it seem unlikely that the plan will actually be followed through. Aside from pulling the residents into recycling, we need a policy that will push them away from throwing trash. The cost of trash removal should be increased so that recycling would be the cheaper option. An analysis by Thomas Kinnaman suggested that an appropriate unit-based charge of household garbage production can reduce the amount of garbage each household generates or divert some of the material for recycling. The additional revenue from the increased fee could also be used to support the recycling program instead of having to raise taxes. There's simply no reason that Indianapolis can't become a leader in recycling like other cities in the US and around the world. If the policies were fully implemented, there are both economic and environmental benefits that will impact Indianapolis and Indiana. The Indy Star pointed out that the recycled materials, which are high in demand by manufacturing companies in Indiana, could generate more income to the state as these companies currently have to import their materials. A proper recycling program will attract more companies to Indy and jobs for Hoosiers. GT Environmental also says that the impact of the recycling industry on Indiana's economy is $1.7 billion. If the industry grows, that can increase by $376 million. But aside from economic gain, recycling is leading us one step closer to a sustainable society. Hopewell and co-authors says that the decrease in use, increase in recycling, reuse, and repair can reduce environmental impact and resource depletion. If Indy succeeds in implementing a proper recycling program, it can become just like Los Angeles, where almost 80% of waste is recycled, or Germany, where around 56% of waste is recycled, as reported by the Climate School of Columbia. So, in all of this, what can you do to help make sure that the policies are implemented? First, you can send a letter to the mayor's office demanding curbside recycling, because we need to let them know that we want cheap and convenient recycling. But until the policy is implemented, please sign up for the subscription-based recycling. You can find out more information on indy.gov. Last but not least, send another letter to the mayor's office, because we need to let them know that we want universal curbside recycling by 2025. The outdated policies need to be changed in order to bring universal curbside recycling to Indianapolis. This program will increase the recycling rate in Indy, which will in turn benefit the state's economy and sustainability. So, remember that the plastic bottle you throw out still needs to go somewhere. Let's make sure that it gets to a recycling center and not the incinerator or the landfill. Thank you.
Our sixth speaker of the evening is Ainsley Foster with Professor Persis Aye. She is a freshman majoring in finance and legal studies. The title of her speech is A Step in the Right Direction, IUPUI's Role in Civic Education. Please join me in welcoming Ainsley.
There's an epidemic facing America today, and its patient zero is today's youth. Young people don't vote, and for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's because they don't know how, or they don't know their candidates or their representatives. At the bottom of it all, I believe that it's because they don't know how much their voice truly matters. As someone who is incredibly passionate about democracy and politics, I realized just how necessary it was that someone speak up about the crisis at hand. More importantly, that someone speak up about how to address it. Implementing a civics course at IUPUI is a step in the right direction, a step that would make our student body more politically educated and civically engaged. The epidemic is civic disengagement. Each and every community, municipal to federal, has a unique set of problems. Problems such as pollution, corruption, inflation. Whenever an individual or a group of individuals takes it upon themselves to address an issue within their community, that is civic engagement. The most common form of civic engagement is, of course, voting. The lifeblood of successful democracies is the active participation of educated and informed citizens. Civic education aims to empower citizens to understand their political climate and to take part in their democratic processes. Civic education aims to inspire citizens to fulfill this role. Unfortunately, young people haven't quite got the memo yet. According to Bloomberg government, young voters aged 18 to 24 have constituted the lowest percentage of voter turnout. And while this data has slowly improved over the years, the trends you're about to see will show you that we still have a long way to go. According to Bloomberg government, in the 2018 midterms, just over 32% of young people made their way to the polls. In the 2020 presidential election, this number was just over half. These statistics paint a grim picture for America. And in 2021, the New York Times ranked 25 democratic nations when it came to youth voter engagement. These statistics put the US in the bottom 5. Now, I wish I could tell you that things at IUPUI were better, but they are simply worse. To get a better picture of our student body's political knowledge, I surveyed 30 students on campus, and I found that 22 of them were eligible voters. Out of that 22, only 4 actually voted this past midterm. And to get a better picture of our student body's political knowledge, I asked those same 30 students 2 simple questions. How many senators represent the state of Indiana, and can you name them? The results speak for themselves. Less than 27% of students could tell me that 2 senators represent the state of Indiana. Nearly 77% couldn't name a single one. And out of the 4 people who did vote, only 1 could name both senators. But I'm a firm believer that when the right people take action, things can change for the better. At this university, students are required to take a first-year seminar. It's 1 credit hour, 1 semester, and an excellent way to introduce students to the university and all that it has to offer. My vision for the IUPUI Civics course follows much the same format as first-year seminar. The IUPUI Civics course would teach students who their elected representatives are, who their candidates are, and what platforms they support. It would show students how the Electoral College works, how political parties work, and how their vote directly impacts the balance of power in the Senate and the House of Representatives. One of the more important aspects that this course would cover is current events. According to the Pew Research Center, 80% of Americans get their news from a digital device. And when we look at those aged 18 to 29, 71% get their news from social media. Far too often, incredibly complex issues are scaled down to a false dichotomy on social media. Us versus them, me versus you. To directly combat this, the IUPUI Civics course would present current events in an objective format, with all angles considered. It wouldn't teach students what to think, but how. It would encourage critical thinking skills, and it would teach students how to think for themselves on important issues. By implementing a civics course at IUPUI, this university takes steps towards resolving a national issue. According to the National Education Association, students who experience high-value civics education experience positive benefits in and outside the classroom. Outside the classroom, students are more likely to vote and discuss politics at home. They're more likely to volunteer and work in their communities. They're more likely to speak publicly and communicate with elected officials. Inside the classroom, high-value civics education encourages critical thinking skills, inspires civil debate among students, and encourages classroom confidence. By implementing a civics course at IUPUI, this university takes steps towards resolving a national crisis. And by implementing a civics course, this university takes a step in the right direction, a step that would make our student body more politically educated and civically engaged. I am calling on the university to make a change, to add a civics course to the curriculum. Knowledge is power, And when we use the knowledge of our rights, our roles, and our responsibilities, we have the power to make real change. By implementing a civics course, this university asserts the importance of civic education. And now the epidemic has made itself clear, it is up to us to do something about it. Thank you.
Last but not least is Tayna Ma. She is a sophomore majoring in psychology. Her professor is Teresa Tackett, and the title of her speech is Native Language Speakers, What About Us? Please join me in welcoming Tayna.
The American school system has failed its minority student population once again. In a country where English is a dominant language, it fails to have a curriculum that is inclusive, constructive, and accommodative for its native language speaking students. According to Pew Research, 53% of the student population are students of color. 21.6% of those students speak a different native language at home. That is almost a quarter of the student population that is unaccounted for. Now, I want you to imagine that you're administered a knowledge test over a subject that you're well educated on, but you still failed because it was written in a completely foreign language. I want you to put yourselves in these students' shoes for a second and understand the frustration that comes with having to work twice as hard as your peers to learn the same material, but still always being a step behind. That is the frustration that students with English as a second language face every single day in their classrooms. Now, I was an ESL student for my whole life, and I understand the discouragement I felt every single time I got handed back a test score that was significantly lower than those of my classmates for errors that had nothing to do with my knowledge about the subject, but rather due to my English proficiency, or lack thereof. Vietnamese was the only language spoken in my household, so the only time I was exposed to English was at school. So every time I went to school, I felt like a complete outsider, like a tourist in a completely foreign environment, like a fish out of water. Today I'll be talking about the problem with school-administered tests and its exclusiveness on native language-speaking students, solutions that I propose to this problem, benefits it'll have in the school system, and how you all can help be advocates today. English language learners prominently perform poorly on large-scale and in-class achievement assessments for a plethora of reasons that go beyond the knowledge, skills, and abilities that these exams are designed to assess. And low achievement test results can have serious consequences on instructors and children, especially in a time when test-based accountability is highly prevalent. In a 2007 academic journal by Fairbairn, she discusses unfavorable outcomes such as the misconceptions about the knowledge and abilities possessed by ESL students, assertions that teachers and levels of higher institutions are ineffectual, and disgruntlement on part of educators, students, and members of the family and community. In a 2019 Getting Smart article, Withycombe points out that screening for academic difficulties in English often over-identifies English learners for placement in intervention programs that don't match or address their needs. Requiring students to take standardized tests in a language they have little to no knowledge about puts them at an unfair disadvantage with their peers. This can lead to hopelessness and discouragement amongst teachers and students. It is important that we advocate for immediate action and act as a voice for these young students to get the education that they deserve. Now that we know the problem at hand, let's talk about some testing solutions. Offering native language testing to English learners will allow for a fair and accurate reflection of a student's mastery of English and language arts, math, science, and social studies concepts, regardless of their English proficiency. In a 2008 guide by Bowles and Stanfield, they encouraged the implementation of written translations of English tests, either entirely in the native language or bilingually in English and the native language. They also suggest scripted oral translations of entire tests administered by either person or by audio recording. And lastly, they touch upon assessments designed entirely from scratch in the non-English language. When it comes to implementing this policy in school, any small step towards addressing this issue matters, and that includes starting small and building knowledge at a local level. The next step, however, requires people in power such as parents and educators to work through groups such as those that are listed here, such as the United States Department of Education's Office of English Language Acquisition. The last step requires states to take the necessary action of creating a consolidated state plan utilizing the ESSA template, which is a part of the Every Student Succeeds Act. This is a revised version of the No Child is Left Behind Act, and it works to allow school districts and states the flexibility when it comes to determining how students are assessed, as well as aiding those who may need some extra assistance. Now, though adopting a policy to instate native language testing in schools is the ultimate goal, there are some small steps that we can implement today to help accommodate to ESL students to facilitate greater test success. In that same 2007 academic journal by Fairbairn, she discusses variations in administration of tests, such as extended time, allowing students to work in small groups, and variations in response mode, such as allowing students to answer orally rather than in writing. In a 2019 Color in Colorado article, Robertson points out how teachers can actually help students prepare prior to the tests. She states that teachers can ensure that English learners understand the format of the tests, as well as understand that it is okay to skip difficult questions and return to them at a later time. And lastly, an Eric Digest article by Bronwyn points out how test administrators can help during the tests by explaining or repeating test questions to those who may need some extra assistance. Now, let's look at an ideal world where these tests are implemented in schools all around the United States. What would this look like, and how would this benefit our school system? Well, native language testing will not only eliminate the academic inequality at hand, it will also allow students to accurately portray their intelligence and comprehension. In a 2019 EdWeek article, Mitchell concludes that native language testing will act as a crutch to English learners and elevate their education and learning experience to a whole new level. Students can also now take assessments without the added anxiety that they'll be unjustly and unfairly evaluated, at a disadvantage to their classmates. Overall, native language testing will act as a bridge to English language growth by highlighting students' strengths rather than their deficiencies. Students' and teachers' efforts can now be accurately measured. But these students need your help. I'm reaching out to all of you today to take out your phones and scan this QR code that'll lead you to a petition that I created for the implementation of native language testing. I've already distributed this petition to my community of close family and friends, and I've gathered a little over 40 signatures. But with the help of all of you and the addition of your communities, we're able to reach over 100 signatures and start reaching people across the country. With more exposure, hopefully people in the school system will be able to grasp the urgent issue at hand. You can also write a letter to the United States Department of Education's Office of English Language Acquisition about your concerns and your suggestions about why native language testing is crucial to fostering the next generation of students. So today we learned about the problem with these school-administered tests and how it affects these native language speaking students. Solutions that I propose to this problem about how to develop these native language tests and how to implement these policies in schools, benefits this will have on our school system, and how you all can help today. Native language testing is crucial to helping these students stay in touch with their native tongue and their culture. I know for me personally, having to conform to these environments growing up in schools that only speak English, I had to give up a sense of my own identity and my own culture, especially in a time period in my childhood where language learning was crucial. I hope all of you can take a step today and help these young students in America make strides in their education in an inclusive school system. The next generation is in your hands. Thank you.
What a wonderful group of speakers we had tonight. Let's give them all another round of applause. Now, before we get to voting, we would like to take a second to recognize our amazing faculty and student staff that have worked so hard to make this event what it is today. Pulling off an event like this is no easy task, and we couldn't do it without each and every one of these amazing individuals working every single day. As we begin the voting portion of our speech contest tonight, we remind you to rank all contestants 1 through 7 and use the QR code that is in your event agenda sheet. While the votes continue to come in, we will tally them up. Thank you. yet. We'll be announcing the winners shortly.
Just 1 second of your time. So the QR code that was on the screen might not be the right link, so if you can just use the QR code on that paper that we gave you, that would really help us out a lot. Thank you. a contestant and you are a professor, please make your way backstage. We are almost done with voting and we can get to the awards shortly. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us this evening. Tonight, our Chair of Communication Studies, Dr. Christine Karnick, and our Program Director, Miranda, will be presenting the awards. If we could please have one more round of applause as all of our contestants and their instructors come to the stage. Okay, without further ado, tonight's third place finalist is, Amori Curiel. Second place goes to Mongkonpruthangkoon. And our 103rd IUPUI Communication Studies Speech Competition winner is Preston Tindall. Thank you all for supporting our contestants in tonight's event. And thank you to everyone involved in making this event happen tonight. Have a great night.